experts portion of the show where we address those three little words men find so hard to say. I don't know. Those are the words. Oh, today's letter's from a lady. Dear experts, my husband is a total embarrassment.
Well, that could have been written by every woman I know.
Especially when he eats. He picks his teeth, puts his elbows on the table, and makes rude noises. It's gotten so bad, I don't even want to go out to expensive restaurants with him anymore.
Wish I'd thought of that. Oh, boy, I just hate dining out. You know, there's so many little rules of etiquette to remember.
Oh, Dalton, it's simple. You just start with the smaller cutlery on the outside and work your way in.
What do you mean?
You see, Dalton's used to cutlery that comes in a plastic bag with a moist towelette.
Well, you know what the problem is, don't you? This town doesn't have enough fine dining establishments. That's why I'm thinking about opening up my own, eh?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Winston's Hideaway. You know, for people like me.
Oh, yeah? Lonely sewage suckers with no chance for romance? Kind of picturing a lot of tables for one there, Winston.
No. If someone comes in alone, I would just seat them with another eligible single. You know, kind of a dating service / restaurant thing.
Sounds more like a bad idea / lawsuit thing. No, I'll tell you what this lady needs to do is just, she needs to be able to ignore her husband. Go to a restaurant where they have real low lights and loud music, you know. If she can't see him and can't hear him, you're probably going to get along with him a lot. Or better yet, you know what? Just stay home. That's what Bernice and I do.
And Bernice is able to ignore all your faults?
Well, sure, yeah. She's sitting at one end of the table in the dining room, and I'm lying on the couch in the living room.
Time for the experts portion of the show where we address those three little words men find so hard to say. I don't know. Those are the three words. Okay, dear experts, recently I read in the paper about some guy who has 12 wives. How does that work? Signed, just the one.
I don't know how it works, but I'd like to find out.
Geez, 12 wives, huh? Hate to see that guy's to-do list.
Yeah, you know, this guy and his wives, they probably belong to one of those religious sects, you know, where they allow multiple marriages.
Well, which one's that?
Oh, gosh, there's lots of sects.
No kidding!
Oh, no, this is S-E-C-T.
Oh.
So you guys, if you had the chance, would you have more than one wife?
Well, I wouldn't mind a few more. And Margaret, Raquel Welch for starters, huh?
You're the one who needs the starter, don't you?
And that girl on that Friends show?
Oh, which one?
Well, it's the show about that group of friends.
No, which girl?
Oh, one of the blonde ones, the pretty one.
How can you marry someone you don't even know her name?
I'd go through her agent.
What about you, Red? Would you like a bunch of different wives?
No. When it comes to women, I'm more quality than quantity. Especially since the surgery.
You know, you could be right, but I'd die to have a bunch of women looking after me. Fat chance, huh?
No. If Anne Marie is watching, you got a pretty good shot at the dying part.
Welcome to the expert portion of the show. Now, this week's expert portion of the show, we have two experts. One being my Uncle Red and his good friend, Mr. Dalton Humphrey. This week's letter goes as follows. Dear experts, my wife and I are going through a divorce from each other. How can we equally divide up our stuff when we only have one good piece of furniture?
Well, the phrase chainsaw comes to mind.
You know, it's a tough problem. I know, because about 3 weeks ago, my wife and I decided we maybe get divorced.
What? You and Anne Marie getting a divorce, are you?
Well, yeah, she wanted to wait till our daughter was 20, and that happened last month. So after 14 years of marriage, she moved out. Walked right out.
Wow. Sorry to hear that, Mr. Humphrey.
Don't worry about it, Harold. It's all right.
Hey, Dalton, I'll tell you something. That is her loss. Yeah. I'll tell you. You're going to find out that you're going to be the lucky one now, because I'll tell you something. Most folks around here never liked her. So many times you hear them saying, you know, boy, oh boy, how did he end up with that one? You know, he'd be better off without her. She's holding him back, so don't you worry.
I had no idea that folks felt that way.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, they just couldn't stand the sight of her. And when they find out that this thing has finally gone kaput, there's going to be a big celebration, I'll tell you that.
Well, I wonder how they'll feel when they find out that she's come back after a week and we reconciled, decided we really loved each other.
Just off the top of my head, I would imagine they'd be somewhat embarrassed, you know, about some of the things they'd said, and I would expect that they would owe you a fairly good-sized apology.
Who was it was saying that stuff?
Well, to be honest with you, it was mainly Harold.
Welcome to the experts portion of the show. And this week's experts, of course, is Masquerade and his good friend, Mr. Winston Rothschild. Okay. First letter goes as follows. Dear experts, my son has decided he doesn't want to follow in my footsteps. I want him to join the family business, but he has other ideas. What can I do? Well, you know, I guess you just have to start living with the fact your son has his own life.
Well, that's no kind of advice, Harold. Here's the man paying a tremendous compliment to his son, you know, inviting him into the family business. I'll tell you what this is. This is a show of fatherly love we're looking at right here. Am I right there, Winston?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the times I wish my old man, you know, had brought me into his family business, instead of, you know, getting me to bring him ashtrays and bottle openers and going to answer the front door and telling the cops that he wasn't there.
Well, I'll tell you something. If my son ever asked me, you know, to be in the family business, I'd be so delighted I'd do anything I could to get him in there. You know, I would sort of make fun of everything else he tried to do, and I'd cut him out of the will, and I'd threaten him and slash all his tires if he didn't come into the business. You know, just in a friendly way, you know, make him toe the line.
Well, I completely disagree. But, I mean, you know, if you ask me, I would disagree. I think the son should lead his own life like Mr. Rothschild does. Well, I gotta admit, you know, I've got no regrets, eh? You know, I mean, sure, I floundered around there for a while, had my share of failures. You know, at one point there, I wanted to be a bank president, then a Supreme Court judge. And then I just sort of dove headlong into the sewage business, and I've been up to my eyebrows ever since, eh? Yeah. But I gotta admit, it was a little bit disappointing that the old man never asked me. Because I'll tell you something, if I had a kid, he'd be more than welcome to join me in my family business. Oh,
he might not be interested in starting at the bottom, you know.
Well, whatever, I think the point here is that some sons just, you know, don't measure up to their fathers. Well, sometimes the son is 5 times the man his father is.
Yeah, yours will be.
Welcome to the expert portion of the show. On this week's expert portion of the show, we have experts. My Uncle Red and his good friend, Edgar Montrose. First letter goes as follows. Alrighty, dear experts. I took my children to a movie recently, and I was disgusted by the language and the nudity. And that was just in the car beside us. The movie was far too violent for children or seniors or anyone who hadn't spent time in either prison or the Navy. How can we in Hollywood to clean up its act? Signed, Offended.
Well, I agree with this viewer. I'm telling you, my wife Bernice dragged me out to see that Mary Poppins a few years ago. Man, talk about offensive. I thought I was going to get diabetes. They started singing that supercalonarcoleptic extrahalitosis. I just about lost my licorice nibs.
I'll tell you what's wrong with movies. They give the kids a false sense of reality. Like that movie Speed when the bus blew up. You never get that much flame. They showed it as a big fireball, but a real bus explosion is all smoke and mirrors. I know. I was the mechanic at a bus company for a couple of days.
Well, I would like to caution our viewer, there have been some great movies made that are both educational and uplifting.
Yeah, in the old days. Like The Bridge Over the River Kwai. Did you see that baby go up at the end? And the train went crashing into the river? won an Oscar for Best Picture. But that one now, Bridges of Madison County. I waited for one of those bridges to go up, but nothing. And I wasn't the only one disappointed. Everybody in the theater was crying by the end. Movies today just don't deliver.
I do have to disagree with you because there have been some great films made. You know, like Forrest Gump, The Piano, Dances with Wolves.
I saw that one. Now, the native guy was okay. Should have got the Oscar. But the rest of it was a yawn. Now, what they needed there is one of those buffalo to get backed up with methane. He'll catch his hoof on a piece of flint and go off like a big furry grenade. Kaboom! Talk about your burgers to go.
The expert portion of the show, and on this week's expert portion of the show, we have experts my Uncle Red, and of course his good friend, Mr. Winston Rothschild. First letter goes as follows, dear experts. What's the secret to getting a great job? If my uncle knew that, he wouldn't be hosting this show.
Well, obviously, the key to a great job is to have an uncle that owes your father a lot of money.
Well, actually, I have to diverge with you there for a second, Red. See, my dad owed all kinds of people all kinds of things, and actually, the only job that ever got me was once a guy came up to me and said, if you beat up another guy, he wouldn't beat up my father.
Well, I don't think we would ask you what a great job was about anyway, Winston.
Well, I don't agree. I mean, especially if the guy aspires to be like me and own his own sewage and septic sucking service, eh?
Mr. Rothschild, I think you mean aspires.
No, Harold, I think expires is right up.
Yeah, well, anyway, the key to a good career is finding the key to that career. That's key. And, you know, I just happen to have found the key to the sewage and septic sucking business, eh?
Blocked sinuses?
No. No, the key to successful sewage sucking is the personal touch, eh? Oh, yeah. You've got to chat up the customers, eh? Oh, yeah, you got to make them feel at home, make them feel special, you know? Cater to their every need. Because in my business, the customer is king.
Only while they're on the throne.
In the expert portion of the show, where we examine those three little words that men find so hard to say. I don't know. Excellent. Okay. This week, joining my Uncle Red in the expert portion of the show is his very best friend in the whole wide room, ferry boat captain, Mr. Hap Shaughnessy. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, our viewer writes, dear experts, my husband says that everything on television is a load of crap. I prefer to use the term a load of bad stuff. Do you think television is a load of bad stuff, too?
Well, I sure do. It's all crap, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, everything except this show, right, Uncle Red? Not this show.
All right, if you say so, Harold.
How about you, Mr. Shaughnessy? What do you think? That television's a load of bad stuff, too?
Yeah. Yes, I do, Harold, yeah. Yeah, it's all crap. And it could have been so great. That's what hurts. I'm almost sorry I invented it.
Invented what, huh? Crap?
No. Television. I was going to call it Hapavision, but I changed my mind when I saw so many of those early pilots and the way they turned out. So everyone was saying, who invented television? And I said, I'll never tell. And then after that, they started calling it Never Television. And then they called it television, and the rest is history.
History in the making, I'd say.
So I washed my hands of the whole thing outside of a brief stint when I took over the Tonight Show from Jack Parr. I don't know, I couldn't stand that Hollywood scene. It was so phony.
Tough for you to stand out in that crowd, I would think.
Welcome to the expert portion of the show. This is that part of the show where we like to examine those three little words that men find so hard to say. I don't know. Yeah, they're the ones, exactly. Okay, joining me, Uncle Red, in the expert portion of the show today are, wow, two experts in the, okay, Mr. Mike Hammer and Mr. Dalton Humphrey. Wow, that's great. Three whole experts. Not quite the three wise men, but...
Well, at least we still got the expectant virgin.
Today's letter goes as follows. I am 8 years old, and a lot of my friends have recently told me there is no such thing as a Santa Claus. Please tell me the truth. Is there a Santa Claus?
Is there a Santa Claus? I mean, what kind of question is that? I mean, you might as well ask, does Moose Thompson exist?
Or if Mr. Green's wife Bernice exists.
Well, Bernice better exist. Otherwise, I'm letting their parents visit for no good reason.
Well, it's going to be a terrible world to live in without Santa Claus.
Well, you know, I think this letter addresses a good point. I never got any presents from Santa when I was a kid, you know, so maybe he doesn't exist.
Well, Mike, you're a rotten kid. You know. That's why Santa didn't bring any presents.
You stole my bicycle.
Well, how do you know it was me?
Because you used to ride back and forth in front of my house, riding it and waving and laughing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to answer our viewer there, I'd just like to say that Harold here exists, so Santa Claus must exist, otherwise life isn't fair. I'll tell you, Santa Claus exists as surely as Possum Lodge exists.
I know sometimes it's hard to believe in a chubby guy with a beard, but you'll get used to it. To the expert portion of the show. That portion of the show, we examine those three little words that men find so hard to say. I don't know! Wow, imagine if they said that. Anyway, joining me, Uncle Red, on this part of the show is his best friend, Mr. Mike Hammer. Welcome, Mike. The letter goes as follows. Dear experts, I find it impossible to get my husband and two teenagers away from the television for supper. I'd be overjoyed if they could just skip 1/2 hour of television so they could all sit down at the table, talk, and eat together like a real family. What should I do? Whatever happened to the lost art of conversation?
Well, I don't think any conversation that went on at my house could be considered art. It's more like sport. Contact sport.
Things get a little out of hand, did they?
Oh, yeah, a lot of hubbub.
Yeah.
You know, my uncle would be hiding under the couch, and somebody would be in the corner bleeding, and my dad was always in a bad mood because he was being arrested. You know, the usual stuff.
Oh, yeah, well, you know, I think this particular viewer just wants to turn their TV off and have a simple dinner conversation.
Well, no, Harold, you know, it may not be that simple, you know. This is a woman, she says she's got a husband, she's got a couple of teenagers. I'd say she's been married for quite a while now, you know.
Well, not necessarily. My parents had their 8th anniversary when my youngest brother was 23.
Yeah, okay, but they've been living together for a while. And when people have been living together a long time, sometimes they don't have anything to say to each other.
Or you do try to say something casually at dinner, and like the next thing you know, your sister's being subpoenaed. I think that's the word for it.
Okay, all right. You know, and there's another dangerous side to this, Harold. When people don't have anything to say to each other, they end up criticizing each other.
Yeah, and you don't want that at the dinner table because these folks are packing cutlery, right? You get somebody waving a steak knife around, and before you know it, you got an extra ear on the corn platter.
Well, here's my advice to that lady. Just turn the TV off, because there's no program as good as time spent with your family.
Except for America's Most Wanted. That's the same as spending time with my family.
The experts portion of the show. This is where we examine those three little words that men find so hard to say. I don't know! It's so true, isn't it? Okay, today's letter goes as follows. Dear experts.
La la la.
Last night I dreamt I was driving my car up a steep hill when the engine died and it started to roll backwards, faster and faster, until I woke up in a cold sweat. What does this mean?
Oh, sounds like he popped the clutch too fast.
No, Uncle Red. I think this man wants us to help interpret what the hidden meaning of his dream. You're going to need to go into the world of the unconscious mind.
And you're going to need to come out of it.
No, I think this dream is all about anxiety.
Oh, okay, I get it. This guy's afraid of hills.
No, wait, no. This guy has a fear of failure. That's why he can't climb the hill. He's afraid if he stops, he'll slide backwards again, so he has to keep moving forward, moving on.
Well, if he's afraid of hills, he should move to Saskatchewan.
I had this really weird dream once. I was in my jail cell, right? And there was this dwarf in the corner. He was singing the Folsom Prison Blues. And my mother was sitting in the cell next to mine.
That is so spooky.
I hadn't got to the part where I fell asleep yet.
Okay, now, you know what? I think we've heard enough. Thanks.
Yeah, but you know what else is cool? You know what else is cool?
What?
You know what else is cool? You know what else is cool? Those dreams where you can fly. Yeah. Sometimes in those dreams, I have superpowers that allow me to do things that I can't do in real life.
Well, you know, Harold, getting a date is not technically a superpower.
What kind of dreams do you have, Mr. Green?
Oh, I don't have dreams, Mike.
You don't dream?
Well, no, because, I mean, it sounds like if you want to have dreams, it must be because, you're afraid of something or you want something you can't have, so.
Wow, that's really enlightened, Uncle Red.
Well,
Takes a lot of character to be happy with where you are and what you have. Boy. Especially considering your circumstances. That's really something. It almost makes me think, maybe I should just hang around here with you forever.
I didn't say I don't have nightmares, Harold.